What's up, everybody? We are back here for another Table Breakers. As you can see, I'm no longer in the hotel, so this is good. This works out. Myself, we do have Jade and also the Cigar DM. Tonight, and we're hoping for a couple others maybe to pop in, but tonight we're going to be talking about the higher levels here. So we're talking about 12 to 15 plus on the levels. So boys, what words of wisdom do you have for this little bit of a dive? I'm gonna start with Jade here.
Okay. Well, okay. So we're talking levels 12 to 15-ish for a lot of games. Those are
Well,
considered
no,
the
no,
high
no, no,
levels.
no.
No?
12 plus. 12 to 15 plus.
12 to
So
15
above.
plus. Okay.
Yes.
So levels 12 to 15 are where the game takes a turn. Typically for power, mostly. Um, the first turn happens at like level 5-ish, and I'm talking like D&D 3X. The first turn's at level 5, and that's where things start to ramp up. At levels 10, 12, that's where power curves really take off. Um, and, that's where your wizard starts outpacing your fighter in damage per turn. They can just throw out massive AoE effects. They can hit, so many more targets than a fighter can at that level. And they just never stop growing in power. Um, but on the same token, a fighter will be able to sometimes outdamage a caster of those levels on a single target. They're your frontliners. This is where, the characters really start coming into almost superhero levels of power. Like there is no one else and in the world that is like them on that same power level, because your heroes, your characters, your players, they're the big damn heroes. That's what they are. So they're going to reach for those higher powers. Unfortunately, you also have the scenario where they can't remember all of their powers because they stopped using some of them, and they go, "Oh wait, I've got this thing over here. I forgot all about it."
Hmm.
Um, it happens. So yeah, having run in multiple games that have gone well over 10 and 12, and even running games have gone over 10 and 12, there's some things that GMs have to look out for. So let's kick this on over.
Cigar GM.
I am choosing my vice for
DM.
tonight.
What are you choosing for the night?
What am I choosing for tonight? I am choosing a Rocky Patel, The Edge. It has been aged for about 13 years. So the local liquor / tobacco store was having a sale, so I figured I'd pick up a few. 5 for 25, I think, was the deal.
Okay.
Following Jade is like following Kai. All the points you want to make has already been taken. So now you're just like, well, play parrot to his squawking. But from 12 to 15, there is a lot of character building. From 12 to 20, there are so many choices. Am I going to stick with this class? Am I going to multi-class? What am I going to multi-class do? Depends on the system. Can I multi-class? What can I, if for 5e, will my ability stats allow me to jump into the other class I want to play? Like with 5e, most of your stats have to be a 13 for you to multi-class. If it's not 13, okay, how do I put a 13 in there? And it's from 12 to 13. So you start working it out. Now, then you have your items. And that's a whole conversation by itself. That could be very much, these are the items that every hero needs from 12 to 20. Ooh, wee! And so I think taking it slow. Because Mike is right. Things start to even out. The wizard's catching up with the fighter at that point. Taking it slow and figuring what you are going to do. And at level 12, you should know what the guy next to you is thinking. Because now this is not a weekend party at Bernie's. This is real things, coming down the line. So you want to keep the party as consistent as you can, by choosing the right choices. By what's the word I'm looking for? As long as you and the rest of your party can gel and not piss off the DM too much. That's what I have to say.
Well, okay, so pissing off the GM, the GM has to know that at those levels things are going to go off the rails. Like the GM has to be aware of that. Like, I know I have gotten a little irked by some of my players in the past that, you and several others, that, have gone way off the rails. And, I got a little irked because, I hadn't thought in that direction or hadn't planned for that. And, you can't plan for everything. You just can't. The best laid plans of mice and men. Someone's going to come along and kick your sandcastle down. It's just the way it works.
What? My sandcastle?
Yeah.
No.
So, you can plan for certain things to happen. You can expect certain things to happen, but you have to be flexible enough to switch at a moment's notice because your players are all unique individuals and they all have their own ideas on how things happen. It's one mind trying to interact with multiple minds and try to keep everything straight.
Actually, one body with a 7-headed Hydra is more of the better probably example. Each head has its own thought. Well, 6-head depends on how big your table is.
I mean, yeah. If you want to getting into the dragon goddess of yeah.
No, we don't need to talk about her. She's fine down here.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you have to be flexible, especially at these high levels. You have to be flexible.
Yeah, and not only you have to be flexible as on the player side, but you also have to be flexible on the DM side, or else you're just going to lose your mind.
In your party.
As much as you try to get them to go on this path, to follow the path, they're gonna find things like shinies on this side and shinies on that side. So yeah, that's what it is. Sorry, Shadow. That's what the link is. So I apologize.
Hey,
So
Shadow, Shadow, if you're in the Discord group for
I sent it directly to him. So
okay, interesting.
I DM'd it directly to him. So it's okay. So yeah, but as much you're going to have a lot of
herding cats? I think it's the best example I've heard.
Yeah, that's like the best example. Like you have to be able to roll with what they want to also do, along with you throwing the plot hooks out, and also forwarding the story.
Well, I think by age 12, I think by level 12, sorry, I got a daughter who's about ready to turn 12, and I'm starting thinking about that. As she points it out to me on a daily basis. I think as a DM, you should have the Coulson moment by then. You should have the rattling of arms. Okay, this guy did something. We're going to fucking go get him. If you don't do it by that level, I think it's one thing from herding cats to crap. Where did they go? And so I'm not saying you need to kill somebody, but there need to be that one big moment. If we don't get our shit together, it's going to go bad, and it's going to go bad quick.
Sure, I can see that. The Coulson moment from the first Avengers film. I guess I could see them as like level 7 to 10 range at that point. They're all starting to finally come into their own. But yeah, you do have a good point. You have to have a rallying moment somewhere in the mid levels, or in the high levels to get everyone working towards the same goal. And if you have players who just don't want to get on the same goal or same page, you're gonna have problems. Like it's almost unavoidable. If not everyone's on the same page, and you got this one guy who goes, "I don't care what the party's doing. I'm gonna do my own thing all the time, every time." At that point, you're like, okay, you're playing a different game than everyone else at the table, and you need to have a conversation with them. Take them aside and be like, "Hey, this is what the group wants to do as a group. If you don't want to do that, maybe."
Hey guys.
Hey, hello.
We got him.
And if you don't, if there's a player at your table that just does not want to work with the group, you really have to have a conversation with them and be like, "Hey, this is what the group's doing. This is what they all, this is what the group has decided. If you don't want to be on board with that, maybe we discuss what your character does when they are not with the group, outside and away from the table, because you're taking up their time at the table for solo missions and solo play. The game is not a solo game; it's a cooperative game."
Well, I'll go ahead and pull this trigger. Sometimes if you got somebody, even as me as a player, I will try to fall. I have a bad case of ADD. I will be the first one to admit it. But I will always try to go along with what the team wants to do and not be too argumentative. Now, that's me. And so if I ever find myself in a situation where the entire party of 5 of us wants to go left, I'm like, fuck that. I want to go right. The DM, Jade is right. The DM should pull me aside. And sometimes it's okay to let your player go. An open seat's never a bad thing because there's somebody out there who really might want to play, and he might really want you as a DM, and he's not willing.
Or she,
the person is willing to not so much step a line, but go with what's good for the goose is good for the gander, so these, there's a reason why you can use DMing on your resume for college, because these are team building skills.
Sure. But isn't it always the thief that wants to do the,
Yeah.
No, sometimes it's a paladin. Sometimes it's a wizard. Sometimes it's a DM saying, "Fuck you, I just want pizza tonight."
Yeah, it can be any class. It doesn't matter. If you have that one person who's an edgelord, or that one person who plays the soloist character, I've seen it as a warlock. I've seen it as
okay. With my experience,
I invoked the max.
You are correct. It is most times the rogue.
Yeah.
It's that person who wants to be Batman.
What did I say something to the Mighty Max?
No, I did. It was me. So yeah, I have incurred the wrath of the max, but that's okay. That's okay.
I've been there.
For those who remember it, Shadow, you might remember the cartoon Mighty Mouse.
Sure.
Just have, whenever Max shows up for any of these things, have the theme song, Mighty Max.
Yeah, no, we get copyright striked on that pretty quick.
No. Max is good.
Yeah,
he's a good guy.
There was also a cartoon back in the 90s called Mighty Max. So yeah,
we've all got our pet peeves, and one thing I always want to tell him is, like, when I send a chat message, I always have I'll have a typo here and there, but my main thing is I want to get that message typed out and sent into the chat before it gets buried. And I've seen other people, including him, make little tiny mistakes, and I've dealt with all kinds of people from all walks of life. People talk the way they're going to talk, and you're never going to, unless you're in a classroom, you're not going to change them.
Okay. But anyway, so moving on. So Shadow, you said you had some knowledge of some other, because mostly what we're talking about is
Third on.
like shit. So like right? Palladium, and some of the other ones. So that would definitely give us a little bit more insight on that high levels on that. and working with that with your players and whatnot.
One thing, one thing that I found really helpful for me is not only do I read a lot of comic books, but I read a lot of books, almost exclusively fantasy or science fiction. And, I made this point before. Batman and Superman and Spider-Man as comic book characters have been going on for, decades, many, many decades. But yet the writers still come up with a reason to get you to buy that comic book, a story, to keep you involved after decades. And, if you were to try to write a Batman, Spider-Man, or Superman as a character, they're in the, double digits, if not 40s and 50ths of levels, after if you added every single comic book experience up, and they always, remember back in issue so and so, and in the text boxes, these characters have been going on forever and ever and ever, and with a few exceptions, Superman and Batman both, kind of dying or whatever, but coming back, they're still the same person. There's still many challenges without, bringing up, Jimmy Olsen, Robin, and things like that, drag them into a new adventure or a new story, what have you. Those kinds of stories, and other, paperback books and other characters, really help me as a DM to be able to, come up with challenges. I was joking with Biggest Geekus, how I'll add, zeros or 1,000 extra hit points to a monster to make it a challenge. While that is kind of true, there's so many other ways that people just don't seem to think of as options for characters. They're always, I can't come up with a monster. Well, don't use monsters. Use political figures. Use, NPC, kings and queens and wizards and all these other people that can bring to bear a challenge that has nothing to do with combat. In the old days, you were encouraged to avoid combat through XP, through the gaining of treasure, as opposed to just combat. Quick thinking. Palladium has lots of different ways to earn experience points, but their experience points are kind of dumb. Only getting 350 XP for defeating a major villain, when you're 50th or 15th level or 10th level, why bother? I can just do my skills, 25 points of skill every time I roll a die, whether I'm successful or not. I get 25 XP. Well, I'll just do that 10 times every day, and eventually through math, I will go up a level, and you can't stop me. I'm just gonna light fires in my backyard and see if I can do it, with no harm to anybody, and I'm just gonna roll my 20 times, and boom, So there's, and I know that's not exactly how it works, but there's a lot of ways to challenge players without just having to resort to combat.
Now, here's the thing I've been thinking about. I've been doing 5e. I've been running 5e now for a better part of it. 2 years. 2 years I've been doing 5e. Well, no. Yeah, about 2 years I've been doing 5e. And 5e, a lot of the 5e DMs have moved to chapter milestone XP. And I'm fine with it for the most part. But I want to kind of do the half and half. When you hit the golden number, whatever that golden number would be, 12, 15, maybe you should stop giving out XP, because you're right. Getting XP to level up after a point just becomes a chore. Mm-hmm. There's nothing more than feed meat, the Pac-Man theory. Mm-hmm. So maybe cut off this is where we're cutting off XP. Yes, you guys are still going to level, but we're going to do by milestone.
Yeah, I've done that many times. I wanted to throw in Arduin, which most of you guys probably aren't real familiar with, but I hope you will when the new game comes out, because I'm kind of helping out with that process with Emperor's Choice. In the original game, character classes went up to 100th level, and all of the rules were pretty much the original, if you want to go the original AD&D or B or X version or what have you. Not quite advanced D&D levels, but everything was almost identical in every way. It was, different subtle differences in Arduin that made a difference. But you could get a 100th level character, and obviously you better have been playing for like 5 years, but they didn't have a limit other than 100. So it's feasible. Even the old AD&D wizard, it had spell levels up to like 20th, 27th level characters. What the spell progression would be. I think I could look it up, but I could be off by something. But you know, milestones are really good because when you get to the big numbers, and you're talking about you needing 250,000 XP per level or whatever, then players just start doing stupid things just to get XP, and that's it's just too meta for me. I'd rather them focus on the story. Don't worry, I got you. I got your back. You got to let your players know that you're not out to get them, and you're not out to be chintzy with anything once you get to a certain point, because if you've got a good group of player characters, they don't need to go find some priest to bring their buddy back to life. They'll figure it out on their own. So that sort of mentality of us versus them, DM versus players, has to come to a screeching halt, especially around a certain point, because in a way you should be proud of your players. They got to this point. Not saying to be a cheerleader for them, but there's nothing wrong with that from time to time.
How much XP for the farmer?
Right. Well, that is a really cool looking mini. What is that?
One Harry Copperfield Dresden.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty neat.
I have a friend who can 3D print these suckers. He's like, "How many do you want?" I'm like, yes. I need at least 3. So if I fuck up the first 2 times, I'll have a good one.
Have you seen the John Carter miniatures I've been painting with my son?
I've seen some of your videos. Yeah, they're pretty.
You got to check out the new John Carter from Bronze Age Miniatures. They're some sweet miniatures, but they're metal and resin. But off topic.
I'm gonna address Legion of Myths comment. How about stop worrying about leveling and just play?
Right.
Yes, I agree with that statement wholeheartly. Stop worrying about, and yeah, you covered this. Stop worrying so much about the meta of the game. As game masters, we should not care about the experience of the party. That's for them to worry about, not us. If they're looking for trouble, they're gonna find it, and we shouldn't be too worried about smacking them back into place when they're like, "I'm gonna go charge that ancient red dragon's home." Yeah, you do that. You're level 10. Yeah, you go do that. Go charge that ancient red dragon. Let's see how that goes.
Well, to be fair, what level were you supposed to be when you fight Charlon for the first time?
Not that high. In Bastion of Broken Souls, this is a 3.0 module that was published back in 2000, I think. The game starts at level 50, or that module starts at level 15, ends at level 18. You're only supposed to be like level 18 when you face a Chardalon, the ancient red dragon, at the soul fountain within the Bastion. I can't remember what level the party I sent in there was, but they got trounced. I think
we were 15th level. We were 15th level.
Really? I thought you guys were more than
15 or we're anywhere between 15 to 17 because I just figured out how to do a.
So the party got absolutely trounced in the first opening of the combat. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna use Hide from Dragons, a spell that was never made for 3.0, and this dragon shouldn't know about it. I'm like, really? This dragon shouldn't know about Hide from Dragons? In a 3.5 game? Like, I don't know about that? Really? Come on. So yeah, no, the party's like, yeah, we're gonna go in, Hide from Dragons. Hide from Dragons, keeps you from my sight, but not my breath weapon.
Not smell.
Oh no! Hide from Dragons covers scent, all senses. So the dragon can't detect them, with normal senses. But using other things like arcane sight, you can see the magical auras in the area. and a ring of counterspell that was set for hide from dragons because he knows the party's coming after him, or he knows someone's coming after him, so he's got a ring of counterspell on.
I don't know.
So yeah, the dragon's like, oh yeah, I know you're there. I know you're coming for me. Oh hey, look, there they are. Breath weapon. Hide from dragons hides you from my sight, but not my breath weapon.
They just fill the room with fire and
fill a 10 by 10 area with enough fire that would normally fill a 120-foot area.
And make sure the dragon's not in the room with his favorite treasure, because he probably wouldn't.
Well, to be fair, I know how to get around that.
Yeah, you would have to play through that one. It's a very unique scenario. The dragon doesn't actually have a horde. There is no looting the horde.
Yeah. See, which brings me, I wanted to ask you guys real quick. Because my experience stops at 2nd edition when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, and I know there's 3rd edition all the way up to 5th. And I know everybody's going to give me kind of a little bit different answer, so I'm going to ask this in a different way. Which version would catch me up to speed so that when I talk to people, because I know a lot of people like different versions.
Hold on. Hey,
up to date, it would be 5th, unfortunately.
Cigar when you're not talking, do you mind muting? Because I think we're getting some cross feed from you. I don't know where the echo is coming from, but I think it's your side. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not my side. It's all quiet in my house.
Yeah.
Son's doing homework, and the little lady is not here yet.
Interesting. No, I am still getting the echo. I don't know why. Interesting. I don't know what's going on.
But to answer your question, if you go to your local game shop,
it was Baron.
If you go to your local game shop,
3.5.
There's a lot of people out there that'll still talk about 3.5. But 5th edition is really as Baron has put it, the 800-pound gorilla in the corner. It's everywhere. I know Legion's going to say it's not Dungeons and Dragons, but for people who consider it Dungeons and Dragons, it is where the game's at right now.
You see, I don't know. You said that's a tough question.
Because I'm not really worried about anybody but you guys, and of course Bruce and Kai, and of course Max. Because I'm not going to be talking to any local people or players. I just want to, so that I can understand what you guys are saying more and not feel dumb or just say, 20 years older than you guys.
I would say that
I'm not.
The collective group is mostly used to 3X. 3X being 3.0, 3.5, and Pathfinder 1E.
Of course, I picked up Pathfinder 2.
Okay. That's what the group as a whole is, most familiar with.
Our group, that's what we're most familiar with. If you go and look at Max, Legion of Myth, he's got the Earth Dawn, Palladium,
which he doesn't really care for as much.
Well, he does. It's just some of the changes that they did he didn't care for, in going from edition to edition, and you're going to have that with each edition anyway. I know his big one that he really loves was that he talks about a lot with Palladium is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that he played. So he loved that. He loves that one.
I would love to play that game. I would absolutely love to find a way to play Ninja Turtles. You know how many childhood memories that would just
fizzle and die.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it was my first Palladium book too. I don't even remember where I got it. I think I got it with a bunch of other books, and I read through the rules, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is I want these rules in my D&D game, So I now own about 50 Palladium books. But so you guys are saying what, 3.5 maybe?
Yeah, with our group here, the Table Breakers group, myself, Cigar GM, Kai, Jade, and Bruce, Mostly it's 3.0, 3.5, and Pathfinder first. And then with the other ones, it kind of the mileage varies between them.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm just so that I don't feel like you guys are speaking Greek. I'm picking up stuff as I listen,
Yeah, I mean,
and
I've got, let's see here, on this side over here, I've got my 3.5 stuff, my second ed stuff over there. I've got some 3.0 stuff in there, and then on this side I've got World of Darkness. I've got Pathfinder 1E, 2E. So I mean, it's a
okay,
mix.
real quick, Pathfinder and D&D.
Sure.
What's the story there?
Okay, so set the Wayback Machine to, I think it's 2007. WotC had started moving away from 3.5 into their fourth edition, and they made a lot of changes to the game. A lot of players weren't happy with those changes. Many players were not happy with those changes. So Paizo Publishing is like, hey, we've already been publishing stuff for 3.0, 3.5, for years now. Why don't we just come out with our own take on it because of the OGL situation?
Right.
And they made Pathfinder 1E, which is basically 3.75 is what we jokingly call it. And this is because it is all the same classes, all the same skills, almost all the same skills. And a lot of the same XP curves and such. Oh, hey, we have a max.
Sorry, I had to.
So Pathfinder 1E is basically Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 reimagined to a certain extent. So it's a lot the same.
Okay.
So
because I'm trying to figure out which books I should try to look for on the cheap, as opposed to just
so there's actually some websites you can hit up for that. You can go to d20srd.org, and that will get you 3.5 stuff. Again, that's d20srd.org, or you can go to pfsrd. I'm sorry, I'll have to look that one up. It's been a while since I've been there. I think it's.
I have two better suggestions.
Oh, go for that.
The first one is just light your money on fire. The second
Here
one
we
is
go. Here we go.
Legion of Myth.
Here we go.
And what after I light my money on fire, then what, Max?
Then you'll just feel better about yourself than giving it to Paizo.
I wasn't going to give it to them. I was going to actually go eBay. I usually go eBay.
There's a free option. It's d20pfsrd.com.
Yeah.
It's completely free.
And you don't have to light your money on fire.
Yep.
See, I light my money on fire.
Yeah, I was going to say, the way I smoke,
SRD.
I would consider it a learning experience, and if it cost me more than a pack of cigarettes or two, then
actually, I was trying to find a new copy of first edition Pathfinder for a buddy of mine because he just wants it, and I'm like, I wasn't going to argue with them, and like the cheapest one I saw that's actually still in good condition was like they're going anywhere from like 60 to 50 to $60. I'm like, nope, I'm good.
So anyway,
yeah, it's weird because like the 5th edition Player's Handbook is like I can pick it up for like $15 sometimes.
That's the one thing I do like about 5e. Most of their books are on the cheap compared to paying what $30 some odd with Pathfinder back in the day.
Yeah, well, I figure what I'll do is I'll off my Pathfinder 2 stuff because I got this huge, massive pile of stuff from someone. And
do you watch Jim Zelkov at all? Jim Fritz, so Jim Zelkov, a really great streamer if you like painting. Actually, I think he's streaming right now. I'm not sure. But he also runs a Pathfinder 2 game, but he's big into Pathfinder 2. If you're looking to get rid of him, or he might know some people who are interested in it because he's running a Pathfinder 2 campaign online.
Yeah, I'll have to look him up. What's his name again?
It's his channel is called The GM's Alcove. Let me make sure he hasn't changed it or something. He does a lot of paint and chat streams.
Do you mind dumping that into private chat for us to be able to look at?
Sure. As soon as I find it.
We've missed you, Max.
Dude, even today, like I almost missed the beginning of this because I had to water my dumb yard. Whoever came up with the idea of physical labor needs to be shot.
It's been storm. Wait.
that was
I
the
thought you
caveman.
guys were getting
Well,
stormed
the
down
caveman needs
there.
to be shot. This is
Yeah,
why
I
God
had to
invented
mow lawn today
technology.
too, Max. I had to mow a lawn today too, and I still got
I have
some
a robot
seedlings
for that.
to put in.
I have a robot
no.
that mows my lawn.
Wait. Hold on. I know I'm behind the curve in most areas electronically, but there's a robot that can mow your
Yeah,
yard.
it's like
Yes.
a Roomba.
Yep. Exactly.
Those lazy, cheating.
Dude, I'm
sons
from
of
Minnesota.
bitches.
I live in Alabama. It's 7,000 degrees. It's like living on the surface of the sun.
Pay somebody else's kid to mow your lawn. You know,
I'm
it's
cheap.
the right passage.
This move back to the States cost me $30,000.
Who told you to
What
move
the-
back to the States?
What
That's
the
your
mower
first
cost you,
mistake.
Max?
What's that?
How much was the mower?
All told, it's about 1,500 after the add-ons and so forth.
That's actually
Wow.
not that bad.
My gas mower cost me 150
Yeah,
10
well,
years ago,
all
and it
they
still
have-
runs like a charm.
Yeah, 10 years ago, everything now has to be eco-friendly nonsense. So it's like $500 for a decent-sized mower. And I'm like, if I'm going to pay $500 and have to push, screw that.
Yeah, mine still runs great.
I mean, am I the only one here that had to push a lawnmower as a kid? Then
Yeah,
go push a lawnmower for somebody
remember,
else?
I lived in Minnesota.
Without an engine,
Without,
Tom?
yeah. I done
Yeah,
that.
same
twice.
here. Both my parents were in wheelchairs, so as soon as I could push a mower, that's what they got, the cheap bastards.
So to be fair, my actual mower that I use for the backyard, because the backyard drive the robot crazy if I had it back there, is just a push mower, no engine. But it takes me like 10 seconds because half of it is just weird shaped. Half of it's my driveway.
So I know this is really off topic,
There we go.
but it's kind of funny when we're talking about mowing.
That's off topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
Yeah, right. So I peed off my mom once when I was like, I don't know, 15 or 16 by doing something really, really, really dumb. And she's like, well, you're going to mow the lawn. I'm like, well, no shit. I mow the lawn every week. What's new with this? She's like, no, here's a ruler and a pair of scissors. Go have fun. And I'm like, I think I fucked up.
I would have spelled something out in the grass. Yeah.
Anyway, so what was
Anywho.
tonight's topic again?
So we were
Bruce,
talking.
I did the same shit.
Uh,
Much of that, and paid for my D&D books that way. I paid for my original AD&D books mowing lawns.
That's how I paid for part of my first car when I was 15, but doesn't mean I like doing it.
Yeah, good hard
So-
work builds character.
I was just forced to do it. There was
Doing
no
that
money
hard
involved.
work caused me to get into IT.
That's character. That's your character.
But anyways, you know, I know I've never played Paizo. I want to. I really would like to find a table around here that runs Paizo. I think I might have to do it virtually because I can't seem to find a table around here that does that one. I've done Griffs, but that was low level, and it seems like a fun game, and I was too big of an idiot to understand it. But there was more potatoes on that plate than there was actual meat when I got down to trying to figure things out.
Was it Riffs or Palladium Fantasy?
It was riffs.
Oh, okay. You got to be in the mood for it. You know, you got to be in the mood for post-apocalyptic, stuff that could happen in real life any day now. So you got to really be in that mood.
Yeah, Rifts is
I'm
way
not.
too gonzo for me. Heathen Dog loves Rifts, and I'll play it because I like the Palladium system, but it's just too gonzo for me. I know a lot of people like more crazy the better. I'm not. I'm like,
that's me, man. That's
I don't want it to be realistic. I'm not pundit, but I definitely lean in that direction. Like I would prefer a game, say like Traveler, than a game like Rifts. Like I want my games to be mundane and normal, yet with that what do you call the je ne sais quoi of fireballs or flying a starship or something.
or something like Firefly.
That's
Yeah,
a fun. That's
without
a
the
fun
Western
RPG
theme, yeah.
with the right DM. That could be a
That's
real
what-
fun.
That's like my favorite, TV show of all time.
If you like Firefly and aren't well, actually, you could keep the Chinese mythos if you want, but and aren't adverse of changing the Chinese mythos to Arabic, Coriolis: The Third Horizon is an amazing game. It's a Year Zero engine game. Free League Publishing. So user engine is similar to Palladium in that it's not a megaverse. They don't all exist together, but it's the same similar system. So if you know how to play Coriolis, you know how to play Mutant Year Zero, you know how to play Forbidden Lands, another game I love. So if that genre inspires you, if you like it, then check out Coriolis: The Third Horizon.
So, I got a question for you, Shadow. Good question for you. Now, if there is an RPG, Firefly RPG.
Got it.
And it's fun. It's really fun. I recommend everybody at least once if you enjoy the show. If you're going to run a Firefly series RPG game, would you do it the same timeline as Mel and his shenanigans? Would you go a little bit further down the line or a little bit earlier?
I would go after the movie.
After, okay.
Or before the movie.
I think if somebody could actually sit down and get the rights from that director, I think the whole
not the director.
That's a director. The mouse now owns it.
Yep.
If somebody
Disney's rebooting it soon.
If somebody can get the rights to do the war,
Firewoke.
leading up to the war, and a little bit after, I think it would be really interesting as a RPG game or just as a straight novel.
So,
yeah, it's going to be Firefly on a rainbow ship.
The only thing is, I know, Max. I'm not looking forward to it. If it comes out of Disney, it can pretty much kiss my ass. The thing with the Firefly universe is, it could literally, the game could literally happen at the same time as Mal and his crew. But there's like slim to no chance you'd ever bump into him. The way I see it, the universe would be, pretty big. Exactly, Bruce. It could be before, during, or after, and they would never know. I wouldn't have to, I wouldn't necessarily tell them, not dash their hopes or get their hopes up that they bump into the crew. It's just, to me, it's like a traveler universe with, no aliens, and you never know who you're going to bump into or where you're going to end up landing or crashing or what have you.
Right. And if you do run it, can I play Badger?
You mean the comic book character or the character from the show?
The show, the guy from the show, the guy who plays Paulie in Supernatural.
Yeah. That's who I thought you meant. He also played somebody else. Wasn't he in Battle? He was in Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
He's kind of a funny actor. I don't hate him.
Back to mid-level gaming. Well, Jay just disappeared on me. I had a question for him. Todd, Baron, Todd. What was that game? It was out of Warhammer 40K, where there was a judge. We played it over
Inquisition? Inquisitor?
Yeah, the Inquisition side of it. Yeah.
Now I jumped in that
big scale miniatures.
No.
This is
actual RPG.
Yeah.
No,
it's a percentile game.
Now I jumped into that one mid storyline. I think. I mean, I was level 10 when I first started. That one mid game was fun. I don't know how far the story can go, but
in Warhammer 40K Dark Heresy Fantasy, there's really levels. You gain experience and you buy abilities with that experience from a table based on your character path, so to say, until you reach so many experience points in that path, and then you open up the next tier of abilities. That's how that one works. So it's not really levels so much as it is tiers of play. But yeah, we were, I think, early mid-tier in that game.
Yeah.
I just remember it being fun. I remember and I thought it was a different game.
It really depends on, the game master, coming up with intriguing plot hooks and stuff for the game. But yeah, any game can be fun. You just have to have a game master who's willing to put in the time and effort for it.
So So when you actually get going within a high level game and get rolling with it pretty well, um, do you start getting the threads tied up, or are you sitting and actually allowing, letting some things fall through just for the simple fact of that you can pick up the next game, maybe with these characters, 10, 15, 20 years down the road?
Well, shit, that's a good
Who
question.
are you going to start with?
I think I'm going to start with Max.
That's not how I run games. So, so as far as something like that goes, I do timelines, and my timelines have timelines, and my timelines that have timelines have timelines. So, essentially, your goal as players is to make the timeline 0, or actually infinite. If it becomes 0, you pretty much lose. Now, that doesn't necessarily end the game. We can still level up those characters. We can still play them. It's just, it so happens that the world is now shrouded in darkness, or the evil wins, or whatever it happens to be, and you have to fight from the other side of it. Or you make the timeline go to infinite, which means evil can't win, and I'll just start something else. However, every one of them piggybacks on another one. So if I'll have like my levels 1 to 3, we'll call it a campaign, but really it's just part of the greater whole. Then I'll have my 3 to 5, my 5 to 8, et cetera, et cetera. As we get up, but I stop around level 12. I don't like to, as a DM, I don't like to DM D&D anymore. Like around that point, 12, 13-ish, it becomes more work than it's worth, in my opinion. And things I have to balance out, all the magic items that they've got. I have to figure out if this is going to be meaningful or not. Sure, it sounds great that hey, you know what? If they win, they win, and I'm okay with that. But then the next fight, I could put up 2 encounters. Like, okay, this encounter is going to happen here. This encounter is going to happen there. One, presumably they're I shouldn't say easy. They're challenging but doable. The first one they cakewalk through like there's like it didn't even exist, and the second one, not even through dice rolls, just because they didn't have the 1 or 2 things that were completely necessary, or I assume they would think about, or whatever. I TPK them or come close to it. And that happened a lot when I was younger, especially running AD&D second edition, that I just learned that around level 12, unless I'm doing a one shot or unless we're doing something quirky and we just say make 20th level characters, I don't like to run the game past 12. Like, it's just, I don't know, it just slows down, it bogs down, it becomes, I don't want to say work, because, being a DM is a little bit of work, but it becomes more work than is fun. I don't didn't directly answer your question, but I want to just put that. I think I don't run in the fashion that of the question that you asked.
Okay.
Okay. So for me, if I'm running a homebrew game, which is where I'd be running, most higher level content is homebrew. I will have asked before the game even started, way, way back, and be like, okay, what are your character goals? What do you want? Here is the world as I have made it. Here is the overall theme of said game. What do you want to accomplish for your character within this setting, realm, whatnot? At that point, I have some character backgrounds. I have got, plot threads here and there that, aren't necessarily tied up. Well, now's the time for me to start tying those together into an interconnected web. This is where I take, oh, hey, that character, came into the game with amnesia. They don't know their past, so I got to write the past. Well, they're an android, so let's put it in Starfinder for a moment. They're an android. They've got amnesia. They don't know where they came from. All they know is their name or their serial number, whatnot.
All right, I'm out.
And I've worked their story into the game throughout play to a point where things during the game are starting to come due. That said, the character might discover, oh, hey, my character's past is tied to this rock over here. That rock just happens to be tied to the main villain somehow, and that's how I start to tie things together in that kind of manner. The big overarching plots. So yeah, I do like to tie my characters or my player characters loose ends at around 14 if I'm stopping at 20, say. if I'm stopping much later, it might, those threads might get tied up into the 20s and 30s.
Okay. Oh, we're going outside. Woohoo!
Yeah, I'm gonna have a cigarette.
What
Oh,
shirt
shit.
are you wearing?
What the hell happened?
And
he
he
got
lost
disconnected.
connection.
He'll be back.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Yep.
You know,
he'll
it's
be back.
horrible.
So-
You don't ever say that in a horror movie or in a horror campaign. I'll be back.
So I hope that answers your question.
All right. Well, and Scar DM.
Wow. During high levels, have I ran a high level campaign? Well, all right. Rise of the
Guys.
Rune Lord is my main one. But even if it's like if you read the Paizo novels, there are a few, and they're not that bad. Some of them have to do with the Rune Lords, and each Rune Lord has a book that they store some of their power in. At least this is the way I'm running, how I'm running it in my head. And in my campaign, that Rise of the Rune Lord has, the books are never brought up in. I'll have the players start finding the Book of Lust, the Book of Greed, the Book of Rage, and whatever one of the books they find, if they fail a will save, that trait will start affecting them. So by the time
Seven deadly sins, basically.
yeah. If you get gluttony, then you start finding yourself always hungry, where you can almost become cannibalistic because you're always hungry.
Time of hunger type of thing.
Yeah. So with gluttony. And so when they get to a certain point in the game, it being late game, they'll finally find the last book, whatever the last book turns out to be. It's always a D10 roll for me to figure out what book they get. So the books will finally come together and become one book of the Rune Lord's Mortal Sins. And that's one plot hole I'll tie off. Now, I love it when a player or a group of players find something and say, well, we want to come back. We'll come back and get this. They never do. Rarely ever do. But when they do, it's nice. I like to tie that up, So I try to keep the plot threads, simple, where they can be tied off fairly easy. Because with the module, I'm putting very little input into the book. It's pretty much written. The ink is dried, and I'm just running the damn book, adding a little bit of my own spice. So if I'm running a homebrew game, like if I do like a Game of Thrones, then I will do other stuff. But for the most part, I keep my threads simple. I mean, yeah, I think that's probably the answer you're going to get from me. I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, Baron.
That works. And what about you, Shadow? How do you finish up your high level games?
Well, right off the bat, I start, with low, first to let's say fifth, sixth, whatever the, sort of point is with that, where they start to, feel their own. I, of course, let them know what my world is like for the most part. Current world is, in a war. Don't, steamroll them into the war, but it'd probably be better if they, pick a side, as it were, and you give them a chance to, die or be able to continue on. Sort of sow their wild oats for a little bit. Maybe hit up a dungeon and, get there, and then, then I start feeding in, the consequences if they don't get involved. If they still don't want to get involved, that's that's fair enough. Like with Max, if the sort of timeline, if they're not gonna play along, then it's gonna get harder because they're not helping. Then if let's assume they decide to take the bait and get involved, then they'll find out what's really causing the big war or the big situation that's going on, and find reasons to oppose that monster or dragon or king or whoever's causing the big situation, the big bad guy, so to speak. Let them know who the boss is that they're gonna probably have to have a showdown with, and then kind of like the Rod of Seven Parts campaign, go and look for the things that they're going to need to accomplish that, because obviously whoever they're going up against is leaps and bounds above them. Even put the four Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles together to fight Shredder, they're still not going to have everything. They still need to get there, find a way to have that showdown, and be able to not just get annihilated instantly. And that should bring them between 9 and maybe 15th level, depending on the game system, because like 15th level is top out for Palladium characters, but I don't have a problem with people changing professions. But that's gonna take a couple of years to you want to become a wizard, that's gonna be like 10 years, so maybe that's not the route you want to go, but get them to in AD&D terms, their name level, where they get that 9th or 10th level title, to where they get the the bigger bonuses for getting to that level. Then do everything that is more or less required, including actually finding out where the big bad guy is, because he doesn't have a sign unless it's Mount Doom and that's where he lives and everybody knows it. They got to find out where he lives. And for the most part, even if they get to that big bad guy, they're not going to kill him. He's going to teleport away. It's anybody who just sticks around, and the turtles come into his throne room, and if they think he's just going to sit around and take it, that's that's dumb. Especially if it's like a vampire or a wizard, anybody, they're gonna have it their escape route. That's what I liked about Doctor Doom. Growing up as one of my favorite characters in Marvel, the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the entire Marvel universe can, come knocking at his door, and he's just going to go, "I'm out of here." They're not gonna get him that first time. Or even if they think they kill him, then they're going to find out, Lord of the Rings style later on, like he just moved over here. Now he's working out of this, mountain or volcano or undersea, lair or what have you, and just keep it going. And if they do finally, take him out, then there's the whole aftermath, to where they're now suddenly, maybe one of them's a king, one of them's a duke or something like that. Now they've got a whole lot of different things, and that's even if they didn't kill the guy and they're at that power level, that's when things for my players that I've been playing with for a long time, that's when it gets really interesting for them. They really like the political intrigues, the king making and being a king, and ruling over people, or running a town, or a thieves guild, or a bunch of wizards under them. All that stuff is so underplayed by most campaigns that I've seen. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. My players don't want to do that. And I'm like, why? That's when it gets great, and then you can really throw, demons, or, multiples of dragons, or whatever, it just, there's really, I don't really, ever have an end, unless they want to retire, which, that's great too, then that allows them, 10-year, 20-year span, and now their kid gets to be first level and I can run that game. But I don't really have, an end. But for us, we really, as a group, really actually enjoy that part of the game that almost never happens, where they're in charge of things. They're somebody to be reckoned with. They have power, and it's not just because they've got 88 hit points and a holy avenger. They've got clout, they've got a home, they've got people they care about, they've maybe got a family, maybe got kids on the way, but they've got a kingdom to rule, or maybe they rule it together, or maybe they're the leader of a thieves guild. And how could that not be fun, being the leader of a thieves guild, sending your guys out and seeing what they brought back up. My favorite thief didn't come back. Okay, I guess I got to go look for him myself. Things like that. It's just a shame that the whole mentality of the game seems to be you get to that 10th level, let's say, and it's over. When it just becomes a whole new game in a way with being let's just go with saying your character's a king. You've got a castle, you've got the town around it, and there's all kinds of things that you can challenge the players with that aren't just going into a dungeon or going after a dragon or going into the other planes and trying to kill somebody or steal something or recover something or destroy the One Ring. There's a reason why in Tolkien he kept going. After the ring was destroyed, there's another 100 plus pages of what the hobbits had to deal with, and that's when they came home, they were big damn heroes, and they had everybody around them loved them except those people that were trying to kill them still, Sauron and Wormtongue, and they still had big bad guys to deal with, and exactly political empire building, and I know Max would kind of wishes he could get into that, I think, and once a player group has had a taste of that, then they really have something even better to shoot for, I think, and so that's my goal, is to hopefully see that they get there. But if they die along the way, they die along the way. I'm not gonna lie, not gonna babysit them. But if one guy makes it out of a party to do that, that's great too, because then he can be kind of almost a co-DM. It's around his kingdom, and now you guys are the rest of the players are first level, and his son is in the party, or his daughter's in the party, and everybody else is first level. But now there's something else to go on. But you've got all that foundation of the previous campaign you get to work on, and like I said, maybe one or more players are actually can say, well, no, I give them these, I give this adventuring party a whole bunch of equipment and get them on that mission because I can't leave my throne room.
Now, can I add on really quick, Baron?
Sure.
I agree. I completely agree with what Shadow just said. Leaving, there's always a little meat left on the bone at the end of every campaign. There's always something left still there, and able to do, well, my character wants to be a king. Well, he is a king. Well, this can go. Now you have problems with the kingdoms across the sea or so forth, or a new evil coming. A new evil is on the land front. Bruce brings this up a lot, and I agree with him immensely. There was a video game that came out a little bit ago called Shadows of Mordor, where they introduced the Nemesis engine in it. I'm sure other games have, but that's the only game I've played as of yet that has it, where if you think you killed the bad guy, he comes back a little bit stronger each time. So, yeah, we put down Shredder. Well, Shredder comes back a little bit stronger now with Bebop and Rocksteady, using the Ninja Turtles as basis.
Sure. Why not? Let's roll with it tonight, guys.
Yeah. So there's always, as a DM, even as players, because sometimes you get multiple players of the game is at the end at the table's like, so they look at the DM's like, more, please. Can we continue this? And the DM has a couple choices. Hey, give me a month, and I can come up with something. Sorry, this is the end of the campaign. We could turn this into, as we've talked about in Table Breakers, a generational game, where one of them opens up a strippers guild. I feel like that should be brought up at least once a podcast now, but something like that. So I completely agree with that there's always the next big threat. That's and we see that even in real life with let's say boxing. A champion is only as good as its opponents. And RPG combat RPG is the same way. The story, the players are only as good as their next opponent. It might be not so much fighting. It might be political. It might be saving the world from the crashing moon, whatever. But there should always be just a tad bit more, in my opinion.
Can I address a couple of people real quick that were in the chat? Right off, Max. One of these days, I really hope we can do that together. I think you'd be, you know, I think you deserve to get that. To you know, because once you get a taste of that, it just brings so much more depth to these games. If you could actually get into, you know, the empire building and the politics, and where you know, how does your character have a kid? I'm going to get you the next genre, because I think Max really deserves that experience. It's so much fun. Shaner, if my players want to keep playing, I won't. I don't have a limit of what I can. You know, I don't have a threshold of, oh, you're too powerful. I can come up with a challenge, and there never has to be combat. And I think you'd like that better because it's actually more pure role playing. Because you know you're not swinging to hit. You're not looking for traps. You're using your brain at a whole nother level, and you're really more in character because you have so much more at risk, so much more invested. And as for kids, I did a video in my John Carter Princess of Mars. When I did the review of the John Carter Princess of Mars, I actually am probably one of the only DMs that will put romance into a game. I think it's integral to a good story. I cannot stand the sausage fests, and I don't feel weird about it. That's what I hated about Lord of the Rings, and what I loved. There were romantic interests. That's why I'm a big Burroughs fan, because he puts love and romance into the game. And you know, when you read a story like that, you don't feel like, oh, weird, unless you're like 12. And you know, you know, like in the Princess Bride, you know, I don't mind the kissing so much. I would rather have that than them never to, you know, be able to, you know, have a family. That, especially like with Conan and things like that, when he became King Conan and his wife or his kid were being, you know, kidnapped every other book. That's a great hook. You know, now you got to go rescue either the princess or your wife or your kid. I mean, nothing gets more personal than that. Trust me. I just absolutely love doing that. And you know, I'm not going to feel weird. They're not going to feel weird, and I'm not going to make them feel weird about it. You know, it's just another NPC. It would be like never having, you know, female NPCs in the party. Sure, it can get kind of weird when you're at the tavern and your first through fourth level players, that's all they're doing is hitting on the barmaids. You know, that can be handled a completely different way. But when it's, you know, the lead character and his love interest, etc., you know, I'll just fade to black when it gets to a certain point. You know, I don't need to, you know, go past a certain point. I'm not going to feel, you know, any kind of weird or awkward. And if they do, you know, they'll let me know with, you know, just a facial expression. I'm real good with micro expressions at the table. You know, I'll get it if they're, you know, feeling kind of uncomfortable. I'll just going to say, okay, you know, all right, well, you know, this is your intention, that's her intention. You guys fill in the blanks, and yeah, exactly. Yeah, I haven't had that sort of mentality since I was in my early teens, working out of a game store where I used to dungeon master nonstop. Right. Very good, Shaner. Yeah, they should. They really should. There should be no, you know, 7 hit point bartenders ever. Those guys are immortal.
Right.
Everybody, Ardoin had that great thing called normals. They were the first people to do it. Everybody in the world had a level, and it probably wasn't first.
You know, it's funny. I put Jade through this. Not every campaign, but there's a couple campaigns where my characters end up with love interest, and I just want my characters to have a happy love life because mine sucks in real life. So you know, it has to work out somewhere. And if it works out in, you know, RPG, which is kind of weird, you know, at least it's, you know.
Omni, it was just being funny.
Of course, my wife has to chime in.
Can
I have a Mountain Dew? That's part of the. If there are girls there, I want to do them.
Yeah, you know what? Again, the barmaids. You know, you may be hitting on a 14th level barmaid. You might want to be careful.
You know, there's a fictional bartender that I'm sure that has more than 7 hit points.
Yeah, Lloyd from The Shining, was it? You guys remember Lloyd from The Shining?
Oh yeah. Oh, I was thinking Mac from the Dresden Files. You really need to spend some time and read those books, Shadow.
I take notes every time I'm with you guys, and I've actually got about 4 pages of notes. So you guys
Yeah.
are actually,
You're not going to be disappointed.
no. If it's better than the one episode I saw of the TV show, I'm already interested. You know, I know. Too much time.
Wow.
Now,
yeah.
Oof.
can I ask a question, Baron? I know you're technically at the.
You just did.
All right. I'm trying to be polite. You know, give it time, I'll knock it off. But I'm trying to be polite. What does he want? Now you get a character. You got a player whose character dies at 12 to 15 mid. You're doing 20th level. Is there any classes? Okay, no, not die. You have a character that wants to multi-class roughly around this level. He took out fighter as long as he could, or cleric, or so forth on. Is there any classes that you won't let him take?
For me,
Just in general, as a DM, is there any
usually, if they start out in a martial type class, then they will have to pick up a separate martial type class. So they can't go like fighter for like 12 levels and then jump into, oh well, I'm gonna be a wizard now. No, that ain't gonna happen.
Can I ask a real quick question here regarding that? One of the things that really turned me off about the newer D&D, I was talking to a couple other YouTubers, some big guys out there, and I had heard that in one version of D&D or another, one of the newer ones, you could literally change profession after you went up a level at the drop of a hat, pretty much like no questions asked, no training required, unless the DM forced it on you. Was that a thing?
I know it's not. I
In
know
3035 you could, yeah.
You took an XP penalty for 3035.
Yeah.
But
And
you could pretty much
Pathfinder didn't, I don't think.
so you could like be a barbarian, let's just say for example, for argument's sake, and then go to a diametrically opposed profession, that being like wizard, and everybody would not think twice about it.
So you could. So in 353, and Pathfinder, you could do this, but in 3.5 there was an XP penalty for any class that you multi-classed into. That said, there are restrictions on what you can do and like how powers work between the different classes. So, for example, if you went Barbarian and then into Wizard, unless you were to follow it up with the Prestige class Rage Mage, you would never be able to cast any form of magic while raging. There are, and that's within the rage rules. You can't, mix those two.
Okay.
So, and there are like classes like you couldn't actually do Barbarian and Monk at the same time. You had to choose: do I start out as Monk or do I start out as Barbarian? If I ever go Lawful, I can no longer use Rage. However, if I start Monk and go into Barbarian, just because I became non-lawful doesn't mean I lose my martial arts prowess. So I can go Monk into Barbarian and get the Rage bonus when melee fighting with, flurry of blows.
Okay.
Real quick, hold on. I'm gonna answer this one. You get prejudice. I can't say it. Prestidigitation, and then you also get alter self. That's it.
See, with me, I'd handle it a little differently. You're a fighter. You want to become a wizard. One, you better have the stats that allow it. Then you got to find someone to teach you. Then, in the old game, there's a chart that tells you how old you are when you are first level. a thief starts out like you could start out with a 14-year-old thief, but a 40-year-old first level wizard, which is kind of dumb, but whatever. Especially if you're like a Harry Potter fan or anything like that. But I would give you a healthy chunk. If you wanted to become a wizard, that takes quite a while to be a first level wizard. But if you got all the stats and you want to, not wear armor anymore, if you're a human, etc., then you're going to be out of the game for probably a decade. But if you wanted to become a fighter, say you were a thief, and you made it up to say 9th level thief, you're human, you're 17 years old, you want to become a fighter, that's like a year or two, right, guys? Military, you spend,
8
in
weeks.
the right, yeah, see, even easier. But you want to become a priest, or you want to become a wizard, or some of these other profession, they've got decent amount of time you're going to have to spend doing that. But this, suddenly you can just the next day you're now a wizard. To me, that's like a video game that
Well-
lets you change profession just because feelings. I just can't.
So
I can't get on board with that.
I'm a step into that. So just because a player goes, hey, I'm a barbarian, I want to start multiclassing into wizard so I can start taking rage mage, doesn't mean it just happens overnight. Oh, we got a Bruce.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey, everybody.
So do you mind?
Yeah, I can stop paying figs now. Bruce is here.
So just because a player is a barbarian and wants to go to a wizard so they can eventually take rage mage doesn't mean it happens overnight. No.
Hey, just
GM,
for real quick before you go on, I personally think that's absolutely an impossibility. Going by the old barbarian where they
Sure.
detest magic, but I just use that as the most extreme example I could think of.
and you're right. In second ed, and advanced Dungeons and Dragons, you couldn't do that at all.
Never.
3.0 you could, but with penalties and other overlaying things. But just because a player mechanically speaking, you can do it. But the game master can completely say, okay, you're a barbarian, you want to retrain to wizard, that's going to take you time, because one, you've got to find, you first have to learn how to read, because you're a barbarian. 3.5 barbarians are illiterate. You have to learn how to read. Secondly, you have to find a mentor. Thirdly, your stats, your intelligence has to be such that you can even cast spells. So you're looking at a minimum of 10 for cantrips only. And then, if you want to cast first level spells, you better have an 11 intelligence.
Yes, it did, Omni-Owl. I have that magazine.
So, just because a player can mechanically do it doesn't necessarily mean the GM should make it easy. Like, you chose a barbarian for a reason. Why do you want to suddenly switch to mage? Why?
Right. It would have to be pretty extreme.
Right. Or,
in-game situation.
Why don't you retire that character? We're higher levels. Why don't you retire that character? That's the end of their adventuring days. They go retire and have a bunch of kids and whatnot, and you can then bring in a wizard.
Are any of you guys familiar with the Hat of Difference?
The what?
No.
The Hat of Difference.
No. I
Okay,
know
this
the ginger swap because of a Bruce.
No. This was a magic item in first edition in the Unearthed Arcana. You put the Hat of Difference on, and you activate it, and you are now a first level in any profession. Any experience points you gain while wearing the hat stays with the hat. You can then change it again if you want, unlimited times. So you could literally do what some of the later editions, I guess, allowed you to do. Now, of course, it's a hat, so a fireball would probably incinerate it if a smart dungeon master realized what he had done by giving out the hat. But I've had instances where people have, sought out said item, and you could really abuse the multi-class sort of rules with that item. And it really wasn't even that I'm not going to say rare or expensive an item by the books, but it was just a crazy idea. And this was the Unearthed Arcana, not like a Dragon magazine or some weird obscure little magic item off in the woods somewhere. This was really I think where a lot of bad things started to happen to Dungeons and Dragons with multi-classing, because I, for one, I'll put, I'll let you, if you want to change professions, you better have the money, you better have all the other requirements, and there have been times where like we were talking about, the game got to a certain point, they killed off the big bad, but they're now going to learn something new, especially if they're like an elf or something like that, where they're not looking at old age anytime soon. So changing professions isn't always going to mess with the game per se, but it might leave them out of the story for a while.
No.
Well, you're going to change job. You're going to change jobs. You're going to leave your union wizard cushy gig, and you're going
if you're a fighter? What if you're just a fighter?
You're going to go into a fighter. You've got to take 5 years off to hone your body properly and to do the proper stretching. A wizard never stretches before combat. you gotta loosen up them hips. You gotta learn how to get good. And by the way, when you were a wizard, now you're changing into fighter. You were middle aged.
Oh, so yeah.
Cusp of 55 as a human going into 60 when you're coming out, so you can be a level 1 sword swinger. Good job, dumbass. I love people that do that. And whenever you try to hit them with that, like, no, your character's gone. What? I switched classes. Yes, you did. You're out of the game for the next 5 game years. What?
Right. One thing I should let you guys know is that in most of my players, they don't run a lot of humans.
Of course not. When you could be Superman, why would you be fucking Jimmy?
See, hold on there, Bruce. I will defend anybody who doesn't want to be a straight human in RPG, because we get to be human every day of the week, Monday through Monday. I would like to play something that doesn't suck at least once in my life.
I'll go for the extra skill point, feat, and other abilities.
Oh yeah. In Pathfinder, I'm a racist. I will admit to that. I'm a racist. I will play human.
I don't know those rules yet, but I can see how, considering Gygax himself was completely opposed to non-humans. I get it, and I see both sides of the argument, because as a dungeon master, I've had literally thousands of players over the years, and I've come across all kinds of wants and needs of players. But that's not my job, I'm not there to tell you what you're to play. I want you to have a good time, and if having a good time means that you're going to be, a transgender, half elf, psionic, whatever. Okay, fine. Are you going to live, very long? That remains to be seen. Let's see how well you play. If you make the character interesting, you get to live another day. It's like, Princess Bride again. Good night, good job. I'll most likely kill you in the morning.
Oh, yes. Well, I kind of want to play devil's advocate since I started this nonsense. What if, okay, I'm a rogue. I am playing a rogue, and especially in the 3.0 days, a rogue had the ability to fake it. Magical items. They had enough. If their charisma is good enough, they could fake most of the magical items. I don't quite understand how they could do it, but they had that ability.
You lie to the magic. You say, yep. I have this many ranks of the skill, or I have this much ability to make you my friend. I am a paladin. You are a holy avenger. Awaken my mighty blade. And then you roll your use magic device, and if you can't roll a 15 plus whatever the DM decides is difficulty added on because you're a schlup, well, then I guess you're a schlup. But if you magically roll that wonderful bean footage and you get those bones to get them double digits in the high digits, then yes, you can use something that's not normally allowable to your class. And that is how magic item use works, or
Metric
use
point,
magical
okay.
device works.
All right.
3x.
I guess I don't. With 5, I want. I don't know how I want to work this one. Okay, so that's how that works. Okay, I look at my current. I look at a DM. I'm a fighter. I want to play a wizard. My character is going to leave the campaign for the next X amount of levels. I'm going to bring in something else for the X amount of levels. Then, once we at the number that we agreed that he would be for at least second level wizard, because there should be a little bit of level penalty for doing this. I will as a DM, I will probably go with that, at least with this statement. Would you allow the player to do that?
Me?
Just in general, any of you guys.
If you're willing to take the hit for 5 or 6 game years, and the rest of the campaign is not going to stop just for you.
No. I would have to bring in something new to play until that level is met. It's like level adjustment with some of the old dragon. Was it dragon board? Not dragon board. Half dragons. There was a level adjustment of 2 to 3 levels before you could play one.
Yeah, for 3-5. No, I mean,
if the party's at like a kind of like a point where there's nothing urgent or crucial or world ending in the way, I don't see why not. If they've come back from a dungeon and the wizard's got to go off and do some stuff and somebody else has got to do something else, that's a great time for such a thing. But if in the middle of a major quest you decide, well, I'm taking a sabbatical for 5 years to learn this, and the rest of the party hasn't said, why don't we just hire someone who can do that for us? But we're going to wait 5 years on your ass. Yeah.
It's a very much case.
We got 6 of the 7 rod of 7 part pieces. We're cruising.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just
honestly,
brought up the rod of 7 parts a while ago.
I love that model.
If everything is going smoothly and you guys have a break period, and it could be fit in and not just seem like you're just trying to, make a weird character that just, wants to, go against type or, just gain more powers, what are you trying to become? Isn't there one already in the party? If not, can't you just find one, recruit, a 7th level such and such to join the party, hire a henchman or something like that to join the cause? Otherwise, it's just it's a little selfish, a little,
yes.
a little, wasting everybody else's time, or potentially risking lives by you not being in the party. If you're one of the 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and suddenly you want to learn, some new profession, the other 3 are going to look at you like, what are you doing?
well, you see, I don't know. If a person went from, let's say, a rogue to a fighter, I might say, the difference between those is not so great if you're, sticking with melee. Like, I'm going to be,
Absolutely,
I'm a fighter with a sword and board, or I'm a rogue who uses, 2 daggers. I'm a Florentine rogue. Suddenly, you know what? I want to start cross-training into fighter. That transition will be much shorter. Now, fighter to wizard, yes, 5 years, however long.
Or longer.
That character is either stepping out of the campaign and will be around for the next game, or we're going to time skip when it's convenient for the rest of the party, not
right. And what do
you.
they get while they're waiting around?
Right. They continue the story. They continue the quest.
Well, no, like if you've got a party of 4, one guy wants to go spend 5 years becoming a new profession. What are the other 3 doing? And wouldn't they deserve to have something similar happen to them?
Sure.
Did they start a family, or does everybody all at the same time decide to change professions?
And
for Christ's sake, I mean,
and that's where we get into like the generational games, like we discussed on Table Breakers a couple weeks back, where the players at the table are like, hey, we all want to go do these different things. when they all decide to come back as these new things or new jobs, or maybe even a more advanced job, like okay, Tim, Bob, Sue are all going to take 5 years to go retrain and go to a different class, but Jerry over there wants to stay the same class, so Jerry's going to continue his quest of personal development. So everybody get 2 levels. We'll come back into the story's timeline in 5 years. Everyone gains the 2 levels over that time, but Jerry over there, who decided I'm a wizard already, I'm just going to stay wizard because why would I retrain to anything else?
Right.
He's going to be a more powerful wizard than anyone else at the table.
Mm-hmm. Now, with like, for example, my current campaign, because they are in a wartime situation, I could actually see the wizard or the thief, or for example, the hobbits in Lord of the Rings when they got Minas Tirith, and suddenly they're actually training to be fighters. When I'm pretty sure they were all thieves at the beginning of the story, Merry and Pippin, and
At least 2 of them were, yeah.
they were all thieves. Sorry, as far as I'm concerned, maybe a little bit of ranger in there or something weird, but I could see where some characters would almost be forced to train as another profession because suddenly, you're a wizard, but you know what? You run out of spells pretty quick, and the army doesn't, give you a timeout and let you, memorize your spells. You're going to need to pull that sword out or something, get on a horse and head for the hills so you can go, memorize your spells while everybody else is dying. No, you need to, join the boys, who are, or, just being conscripted into the army. You're going to train with them, and you're going to know how to use a shield and a sword. You don't want to wear armor. That's your business, but we need you on a horse.
Yeah, and that's a different kind of scenario where,
right.
A GM can go, hey, we're going into a war setting. Your characters are going to go away for 8 weeks to train to get 1 level of fighter.
Yeah.
You're not going to be very good fighters.
Right, but neither are the people you're playing next.
Right.
Next to.
Put them through a boot camp scenario.
Remember that, Garrett? Hey, Garrett.
Shut up, Bruce.
You remember that?
No, I
did
did
that time when you're in the middle of.
It wasn't me who was the issue with that.
Now, I did have a character who he was willing to eat a feat, and I'm like, fine, if you're willing to eat a feat, and this is for 5e. He was playing I think he was playing a rogue. He was playing a rogue. Then he took there's a feat 5e called Magic Initiative or Magic, where you just like you have magic, but you're not a wizard. You have like 2 cantrips and a first level spell. There's just something in you changes. The mutation kicks over. You're now an X-Men, whatever. And he's like, okay, I want to eat this feat. I'm like, okay. Then I want to go into sorcerer. I'm like, why do you want to go into sorcerer? Because during the battle, something in my whatever broke, and this ability came to be.
My rage broke, and my inherent magic took over.
Right.
I mean, that to me that would sound like a decent. That's a good story hook of why.
And I would agree with that. For a character or a person picking up a class that is spontaneous, like sorcerer, I could see that. Or even warlock. Suddenly they're they're in the middle of combat,
whatever,
and something happens where a patron comes to them, because warlocks have their patrons, and goes, I will give you the power you need to succeed, but there's a price. For that moment, I'd be like, okay, you know what? If you're wanting to go warlock or wanting to go sorcerer, I can see it happening in the middle of a war for this reason. And I would feed them the reason as to why. And it could be a sudden shift. Now, I'm going to say you have to still roll all your spells, because you don't know what's about to happen. You don't actually know the magic. You're tapping into something completely unknown. So every time you cast a spell, it's a dice roll of whether it succeeds or fails. because you don't understand how to actually use it yet until you have enough experience using it to actually gain the power or respect the power.
Now, would that go away after a couple levels of Sorcerer Wizard?
Sure, I'd probably take that away after about third level with Sork. I'd say, okay, you've learned to harness the power enough that you can, start using it without the die roll, if that's the game that you're running, or the rule setting that you're running.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Oh,
You can also work with a cleric. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I like that too. Divine intervention. I could see that, knocking all the
I could see
stuff out of the way.
I could see a fighter becoming a paladin if they swore an oath to a god.
Absolutely.
So okay, here's a fun twist on this. So with a high level campaign, is it easier to run a good/neutral aligned campaign at higher levels, or an evil/neutral campaign at higher levels? Bruce, we're going to start with you.
That's a good question there.
Again, I'm sorry. I was responding to a help desk email. Go ahead, Garrett. I'm sorry.
Is it easier for at higher levels to run a game that is a good/neutral aligned, or a evil/neutral aligned?
If you're running I'm going to say this. I don't like the good evil axis. I like the lawful versus chaos axis. And whenever I get over 9th level with a bunch of chaotic neutral people in the party, I start doing this funny thing where the DM starts to try to herd cats, because that's what you are. At that point, you're a professional cat herder. Chaotic good or chaotic evil. Chaotic neutral. I don't want to have responsibility of hold myself to a set of morals and ethics. or you have people that you're using the far superior Palladium alignment system, and somebody says, I'm an anarchist. No. I find it easier as a DM to keep the party focused on task when they have an ethos or a morality, or at least a fucking honor code they have to abide by. If you have those things already in place, if the party, like when Zine showed up and he's like, I have a party charter, and you see that there's a bunny clause in tiny print and a second page of the party charter underneath it, and you filled out everything, you initialed off, what the fuck is this bunny clause? Oh, yeah, that's the tiny print. Where's that at? It's on the second sheet. If you die in combat, do we have the authority to raise you and animate you as a zombie or skeleton so you can haul back the equipment from the cavern or the delve so we can get you raised properly? Yes or no? And people started having issues with this. That wasn't
the bunny clause.
What was the bunny? What was the bunny clause?
The bunny clause is if you were under a compulsion, controlled, or anything like that, that the wizard had the right to turn you into a bunny in order to keep you from doing something bad. Yes,
I remember that now. But the first thing he wanted to animate you as a corpse and have you help mule things back to camp. And instead we started talking about, we're going to turn you into a bunny instead, because I don't need you being charmed or confused or anything. And therefore the bunny clause. But the bunny clause was right after the scratched out portion of the zombie clause. So it was good.
That makes a lot more sense than turning somebody into a dog. In hindsight, it's 2020.
Sorry, Jay. Become the burden of the paladin.
As a dungeon master, I also will say, when you run high-level games and you're having a hard time keeping the party focused, it's good to throw a couple cursed items in the treasure troves and things that, like, the bag of devouring, which always it self-identifies like these fucking blue hairs. It identifies as a bag of holding, and you're like, oh, cool, I got a bag of holding. It's a handbag of holding. It's a what's that gay shit you put around your waist? The knapsack of holding, the ball sack of holding. You know what I mean?
Little mini pouches.
I had one back in '98, and he got photographed with it. So anyway, you get these little magical bags of holding. They're about maybe the size to hold 2 cans of beer. And people just throw money in there thinking, okay, it'll hold 50 pounds, cool. And then about maybe 2 hours later, you have to roll a sickeningly high perception check, like a 38 to 46 or more, and you'll hear the bag belch. And that's when everything just funneled away. The fanny pack, thank you. Yeah, the fanny pack of holding. No, this is cool. And the little fanny pack just belches or like gets a little like gold dust around the zipper, the drawstring area. And you're like, what the fuck? And you don't know this, but you're in combat. You notice this when you're trying to make a big transaction. You notice this whenever kind of is important. You're trying to impress somebody to bar. You're paying your tab off with, I got this mithril bar of silver. It's 10 pounds of mithril. And you reach in and there's nothing in there. I love doing things like that. But as far as your question, you want to keep the party on an axis to where you can properly crowbar them into action towards plot. And I'm not trying to say crowbar like the Joker on Robin in Death in the Family. I'm saying crowbar as in you've been sitting here crafting for 45 days straight. There is no more gold coins in the realm except within the arcane order, of which you've paid your rental fee to stand at this forge and craft nothing but stuff. And you have screwed over every gnome artificer by forcing them to work for you and giving them the feat to where they can crank out 8,000 gold of product a day. So we have gone through 3 gold dragon hordes of currency so you could craft for the past month and a half. The kingdom needs your help. I need you to go now. And that's when you drop like the dragon attack, or they found a whole bunch of goblins having sex with the sororities at the magical college. And so you must go do something because you are the big studly warrior and party will follow. That's always easier to do than if you're herding cats. If you're herding cats, really you've wasted your time and anybody's time who stopped to listen to you talk about your table.
I know there was a question somewhere in there, but I kind of got lost. That horny guy at I know there's a question there.
My goblins campaign are rape goblins like in Goblin Slayer.
We do not talk about orcs or with Bruce. I know what he does with them. Oh my god.
Tuskless Tanya will bruise you right.
Oh god. Anyways.
All right, Jade.
Really
what about you?
What was the question?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I can start at the beginning if you need me to.
Hey. You're not the ranter of the group. Stop it, Bruce.
No, I was just giving tribute to Gilbert.
I know.
He made his Jewish cult rest in peace.
All right, so is it
we'll find
easier?
out any sick shit about him in the next couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, this is the morality thing.
Well, no, this is the evil or good.
Right.
Easier for a DM to be able to run.
Morality. Okay, so that touches kind of a nerve with me on Dungeons and Dragons as a whole, or Pathfinder even. I hate the alignment system. Like, I absolutely hate it. I wish it would die in a fucking fire or at the center of a dying star. That's how much I hate the alignment system. Because human beings are more complex than good and evil, law, and chaos. We're very complex beings. And, at the table, if a person's having a really shitty day, they're going to be in a bad mood. So their characters aren't going to be thinking, oh, I have to be lawful good. No, they're going to be like, you know what? I really don't give a shit. Burn the guy at the stake and let's move on. To me, alignment, is just one of those, oh God, what do we, will morality, yeah. So to me, alignment should just kind of be thrown out the damn window. Now, at high levels of play, I'm hoping that my players are more on the moral, good aligned moral
What about
compass of
paladins?
things. Okay, so I'll get into that one in a moment.
Okay.
I'm hoping that my players at higher levels
no.
are doing things for, good reasons with good intentions. That being said, I would hope that they are, doing things for the betterment of the kingdom and the betterment of others, not necessarily for greed. Now,
Murder hobos.
if they are min-maxing murder hobos who only give a shit about themselves, that's fine. I can run that kind of game. But everyone, and I mean every kingdom, is out to kill them at that point, because they have, at levels 12, 15, they have fucked over enough people that those kingdoms are going to be like, you know what? Let's band together. Let's all 20 kingdoms band together on them. No merchants will sell to them. No, their faces are on wanted posters all over the like all over every one of the kingdoms, on every billboard. Other adventuring parties, NPC parties are out to kill them because they have screwed over that many people. That's if you want to play that way, that's fine. We can do it. Now let's talk about the paladin and alignment system. Because I hate alignment so much, I would much rather my players who want to play paladin research the god that they are actually wanting to play as a paladin of. Like, actually, deep dive into that god's religion and learn the aspects of what that god stands for, or maybe even if you're playing a game that has a unique system over, your paladin doesn't have to worship a god. I don't understand those systems. Wherever they get their power from has a set of rules. The power is what they have to follow the rules to get the power. That's been the main thing for all paladins ever. You have to follow the rules of the patron who is giving you power. If you break those rules, you are a fighter without feats. That's how I run my paladins. That's how I run the paladins at my table. Is if you break your god or your patron's rules, you're done as a paladin. And you have to go on a quest for atonement with no powers whatsoever because you broke their rules. And I say that at the very beginning. These are your deities or your patrons' guidelines. If you step out of line, you either retire your character or you accept this quest, and they will send you on a mission to redeem yourself. So as far as like the good, evil, lawful, whatnot, I kind of like Unearthed Arcana's take on the paladins in 3.5, where you had a paladin that could be lawful evil, paladin of tyranny. You had a paladin that could be chaotic evil. It was a paladin of anarchy or something. You also had a chaotic good paladin, the paladin of freedom, where they were the champion of the underdogs. They didn't play by the rules of society, because the rules of society were there to keep the people down, and they were like, no, I'm going to fight against that. So to me, paladins should follow a code of ethics. What that code of ethics is based on the powers that they are receiving and from whom they are receiving the powers. Does that answer those questions?
The thing is that I'm just waiting for Max to pop back in, because he has he has gotten into this discussion several times. And truthfully, I think it would be good if you and him actually had that discussion, because I think it's kind of eye-opening. I will say that. So let's see. Cigar DM. What are your thoughts on this?
I think by nature of good versus evil to run a campaign, it is easier for higher levels to run a campaign that is good. At least, chaotic neutral and up, or true neutral and up technically. Because there is a uniting force that will go work well with each other when it is a good aligned party. It be, as Jade has pointed out, merchants or kingdoms or churches or so forth or so on. Even maybe the Strippers Guild. I don't know. That depends on your game. Now, my problem with evil campaigns is like, it's a fun concept. If I don't have to worry about the rules and I can just I have a shitty job. Not like Bruce's job, which is a shit job, but a shitty job. I'm working at Mickey D's or wherever where I'm flanking whatever and doing whatever. And I want to go and spend 5 to 6 hours, or hell, if you're young enough, a Dawn Buster. Who does those these days anymore after the age of 30? Jesus. Anyways, then I can see the appeal. The problem is evil campaigns don't go anywhere. They fizz out as quick as they start. I've been in 3 evil campaigns, and I'm lucky if we can get past 11 before we've just dicked over the wrong person. We have every Dick, John, and Harry chasing after us. The party doesn't work together, and by God, later levels where you got one guy who wants to be, for example, you got one ass clown who wants to be Riddick because he thinks he's the hottest shit on the table. And you got a lich that just wants to kill the parties because they're not doing what he wants to do. It doesn't pan out well. I mean, good versus evil is the cornerstone of most fantasy campaigns. When you turn that on its E, where it's evil against good, it doesn't work out well. It doesn't pan out. Yeah, I get it. Trust me, I get it. But there's a reason why we root for the good guys, and there's a reason why we boo the bad guys. And I hate anybody says all evil, all bad guys are idiots. That's a horrible lie. It's just
have you been outside lately?
What?
Have you been outside lately?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's if you have a person who is evil, who actually lawful evil, and lawful good are what, a thin line between each other realistically? It's just motives at that point.
I've actually run a villain who was lawful good. The party thought he was evil and even tried to smite him, but he was good aligned. And the reason he was considered lawful good was because he was following his code of ethics and he was following his God's desire to see a goal done.
Oh,
the methods he went about using is what the party disagreed with and why he became the villain.
Right. And really quick, for those who play 3.0 and 3.5, if you want to be a lawful paladin type character, but you don't want to follow the rules of a god, go play a samurai. It's the same damn thing. You just don't get any spells.
Yeah, you don't get smite, but yeah.
It's the same damn creature, just without the spells. And personally, it might be easier for you. I don't know. But that's kind of what I have to say on the subject.
Okay.
All right. So Shadow.
Well, I've actually, my longest running campaign actually started out as an evil party, but at a certain point they actually realized when they became pretty powerful and had people, in their kingdom or empire, whatever you want to call it, they actually realized that they needed to be good and repent and stop being evil. So that was actually pretty interesting. But unless you want the party to be on a non-stop Bonnie and Clyde being chased across the countryside until they're dead, I really don't think this game was really meant for evil parties, except in limited situations. If the entire group decides they've had a bad week, month, year, and they want to blow off some steam this way, no, who am I to say no? If you've got that one player who wants to be evil in the party, we've all had that happen where someone wants to be secretly, a douchebag, and we've had to deal with that with, various, clue by force, as you guys use. I think, for the most part, the game was, your every profession, like for old AD&D, you had level titles, and none of them were douchebag, asshole, jerk, take your pick as you went up. They were all heroic titles. I think for the most part, I'm going to go 95 to 99% of the time, you guys should be striving to be heroes. That's
just for one day. Sorry.
Yeah, right. It just, you're just asking to die a horrible death as a party or individually being evil. Yes, there are a lot of high-level evil people in the real world who are incredibly powerful. Okay, but they're the minority, no matter how you look at it. The good people throughout the world, no matter what country you look at, most people would like to see themselves as good. There are very few people who really embrace the evilness that can be. And I'm not a big fan of it. I'll do it if that's what everybody wants to do as a game. They want to make up an evil party. Fortunately, most of my regular players have already been through that phase. It's almost like, a phase of life, but a phase of gaming. You start out as a kid, and I want to call it like the teenager phase, because my little one's about to hit that. He's 13 now, going on 14. Fortunately, he's a really good kid. But, every day I wake up wondering, is this the day? Is he going to start becoming that teenager that we've all been for a little while at least? And I think, going through that period of growth was for all of my regular players was really good, because they really learned a really valuable lesson. You can't do it for very long and get away with it for very long before, like Jade said, the entire countryside is hunting you down. And, unless you suddenly become evil at 15th level and you've already got teleport and things like that, they're going to find you. Everybody's going to team up against you. The entire world is going to hunt you down. And the only thing that's going to be glorious is the night they burn you at the stake for the rest of the world to celebrate. You're not going to come to a great end, normally. And as for paladins, I think paladin, it should be a very, very specific good thing. And the player character class is so difficult to qualify for, and the profession and the archetype and all that is not for the faint of heart. It's for someone who really wants to not just challenge themselves almost at the hardest level. It's almost like playing on an extreme level in a video game. You want to be a paladin? Well, every breath, every single word out of your mouth is being judged. In the old days with AD&D, if you strayed from your alignment, you could lose up to 2 levels just for one action. Suddenly you got hit by a vampire because you did something that goes completely against your alignment. Usually it was just 1 level, but there were severe penalties in the old days if you strayed from your alignment. I don't know if there's such a thing anymore. I don't even know, how alignments are used, if at all, in the later editions. But I know that, once you picked your alignment, you really ought to stick with it, because you could end up basically not technically a wraith or an undead, but you could end up back down to first level by doing stuff that went against your alignment. And God help you if you were a paladin, like Jade said, suddenly you're a fighter. You lose all your cool stuff. You that intelligent warhorse that you had now hates your guts and runs off for the hills. You've destroyed a perfectly good character. So playing a paladin is really, not for the faint of heart, but for someone who really wants to test themselves, but at the same time, I guess be as good as you could possibly be. Even though I know technically some people think like neutral good is more good than chaotic good and more good than lawful good, but I'm not even going to go into that. We've always, sort of stereotyped lawful good as, the goodest of the good. That's why paladins are lawful good. It's just, I agree there should be, a character profession or something for each alignment that has the feel of a paladin, but the uniqueness, of being a paladin is just, it's almost its own reward. If you can make it as a paladin past 4th level, you might as well retire because, you've done, you're better than most people can ever be in real life. You're a saint, an armored saint, so to speak. It's just, I don't run too many paladins. Let's put it that way.
There are
All right.
two.
So,
Can I interject on that?
yep, go. Yep.
There are 2 paladins in media that are easily consumed, and one of them is Shepherd Book from Firefly. He's a paladin. He has a code. He doesn't kill unless he absolutely has to. He is a good person. The other one is Michael Carpenter from the Dresden series. That is, to me, the paladin.
Boy, we really have a theme.
That's how it was written.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's written. He is a true paladin. He does not harm those who are innocent, or even if people are being evil dickwads. He's not going to kill them outright because of that. He is trying to save them, even though they are trying to kill him. To me, that is the paladin to strive to be. I know you're trying to kill me. I am trying to save you from a really bad fate. Please help me help you.
I always think of Joan of Arc for some reason.
Yeah,
Yeah, historically that's a really good reference point. Joan of Arc is historically, even if you take out all the more legendary aspects of her, was a paladin of France. I will hands down agree with that.
All right, so I think we're going to hold this here, and I believe that we are going to continue this discussion tomorrow night on Table Breakers with myself, Bruce, Jade, the Scar DM, and then we will also have Kai for his rants. You can see it either here on mine or actually on Bruce's channel. All the links for everyone who was in here tonight are already down in the description, so you can check that out. Also, there are a couple other little freebies down there. Blackout Coffee. I've signed up for their sponsorship and got that going. And you can use the discount code Baron G-Rock and get, I believe it's 10% off. Also, with streamsupplyco.com, you can use G-Rock, the code there, and you get 5% off any purchase. Both that one is only in the US though, but those links are down below in the description. I'd like to thank all my guests, Legion of Myth, Jade, the Scar DM, Shadow and Sun, and Bruce for all showing up tonight. And Max will be Legion of Myth will be hosting Table Breakers next week on Wednesday, so at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So make sure you do check that out. Make sure you go give all these great folks a subscribe, a like, a love, everything. So yeah, So thank you everybody for joining us, and
What
we
time
will
tomorrow?
catch you next time.
What time tomorrow?
Bye. 7:30.
p.m. should be.
Yep, Table Breakers live tomorrow at 7:30 p.m.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Max has got Gatekeepers next week at 7:30 p.m. on next Wednesday. Table Breakers is tomorrow night at 7:30 Central Standard Time.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, no problem,
Always a
man.
pleasure.
And
Yeah.
bye, everybody.